Moving to the country, gonna eat me a lot of peaches. I'm moving to the country, I'm gonna eat me a lot of peaches. Peaches come from a can, they were put there by a man in a factory downtown. Hello, people. How are you? It is 9/21. I don't know what day or date it is, but it's 9/21. That's what the car said. That's probably wrong too. But anyway, I'm headed to Leesburg to cover a story. A gentleman named Robert Slamka from Wisconsin has been contacting me for about a year. His sister was killed by a drunk driver. He believes there's a lot of foul play because the driver had connections with, I'm not exactly sure, but I'm going to stay with him tonight and probably do some footage at the intersection tomorrow and see how the story flushes out. Hi, everybody. Where am I?
You're located in Leesburg, Florida.
I am
off of Highway 44.
I am off of Highway 44 at Gator Bay Bar and Grill in Leesburg, Florida. I am with, I could say your name, right?
Rob Slamka, yeah, absolutely.
Rob Slamka, Robert.
Robert.
How you like that?
That's fine, man.
Robert is fine.
He's good.
This is a serious story.
2 years ago yesterday.
2 years ago yesterday. Go ahead.
My sister was walking across County Road 473 on the west side of Leesburg, in between State Road 44 and 441 on County Road 473 at 7:55 p.m.
And we're going to go to these locations, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. The story pretty much starts here. I believe that the driver of the vehicle, who was misidentified by the Florida Highway Patrol as an Anthony Joseph Downey, real name Joseph Anthony Downey, had family east of here. His wife's family, the Rooneys, live in Grand Island, and he'd come down here to visit family. He also had grandparents over at the Molokai, located off of 473, about a mile up from 444. So maybe 15 miles travel distance, but they were in town visiting both families and staying at Grandma's house. And on the evening of January 12th, 2017, Joseph, aka Anthony, was going to pick up coffee and some snacks to watch a movie with his wife, as he reported in the sworn affidavit with the law enforcement officer after the accident. Was driving home the 5 miles up, roughly 4.5 miles up 473, when he decided to get happy with the throttle and on full speed, wide open throttle, wound up hitting my sister at a speed of 70 miles an hour. She was the pedestrian crossing at Treadway School Road on 473, and she had no idea he was coming on her. Anyway, so I'm here with John Filax. Off to the right in this picture, another 4 or 5 miles up the road, his in-laws. We're going to take a left-hand turn, and we're going to get on 44 here. We're going to go to the Kangaroo gas station where he got his coffee and his snacks. And then we're going to take a right up to the road, up the road to where the accident happened, but we'll be stopping prior to that just to set up the situation.
So what's the significance of this restaurant here?
Significance of the restaurant is the witness to the accident supposedly was behind Joseph Downey about a quarter of a mile at the time of the incident.
The witness of the traffic accident where your sister got ran over.
That is correct.
Is who? Who is that person?
Her name is Donna Marie Chaparro, and she was a bartender working at the Gator Bay. Correct.
So that's why we started here.
That's why we started here.
And now we're about to go where?
We're going to take a left-hand turn up 44, go about 30 seconds, take a left-hand turn onto 473. You'll see the current gas station. It's a Shell. It's a Kangaroo, and they sell coffee and snacks.
But nobody Did anyone start out at this location we're at now?
Only Donna Marie Chaparro, to the best of my knowledge.
So she claims she left from here.
Yes, she left from here. She said she left at 7:30 p.m.
Okay. So go ahead and hold this.
All right, got.
Just film, whatever.
Yep.
Doesn't really matter.
Yep.
So now we're going to go, and just tell me where to go.
Yeah, you're going to take a left here. Go over Haynes Creek Bridge.
And then just kind of, like you were on the way here, start talking more
rambling
about the situation. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. The issue is this. The Florida Highway Patrol responded to the accident scene after Lake County took control. The sheriffs arrived within mere moments. The fire department, yeah, you'll be taking a left up at the Shell here.
Okay.
At the control lights. The fire department, and just to tell you, I'm looking at the camera right now, and I will tell you that the camera's doing a fine job of picking up and adding extra clarification to the lighting. This is not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing probably 65% of what you see here.
You're saying the phone is showing.
Yeah, the phone has the ability to pull more light.
Right.
That's what it's doing.
Yeah, sure.
This is the Kangaroo. That's where Joseph Anthony Downey stopped for his coffee.
So where was he before this?
Allegedly, he had dropped off his wife and his kids over at the house at Molokai, his grandparents' house.
What is Molokai?
Molokai is a 55 and up retirement community. They've got basically mobile homes, community center, a lot of golf carts.
Joseph Anthony Downey.
Correct.
Is that the real name?
Joseph Anthony Downey is in fact his real name.
But
yes.
on the tickets they wrote
Anthony Joseph Downey.
They switched his middle and his first name around.
Yeah, which is interesting because his middle initial shows on his New York State driver's license simply as A. So for anybody to do that, they would have actually had to have captured his middle name, not just his initial, and they'd have to record it that way. Now, law enforcement, Gensler, who was the officer interviewing him in a sworn testimony, he did in fact state his name was Joseph Anthony Downey. He did not lie about that. And it was written down as Joseph Anthony Downey. So there's really no excuse for that name change.
And that's the name they put on what, some citations?
The citation the accident happened January 12th. The citation was actually written on June the 20th, 2 days before the final report from the Florida Highway Patrol on June 22nd, signed by Lieutenant Steve DeVore and Master Sergeant Francine Ogburn. So it was witnessed. It was supposedly vetted. When you read it, and it's available, it's Crash Report Traffic Homicide Investigation 717-12-003. And if you read that, it's just amazing how the inconsistencies start jumping out. But go ahead, John.
What were the tickets for? One more time.
He got a speeding ticket, 30 plus, and he got a seatbelt violation. He was not wearing a seaatbelt when the accident happened.
That's what he got after striking your sister.
That's all he got. That's all he got. The Lake County Sheriff's or Lake County District 5 Assistant State Attorney Emily Currington was emphatic. She said, "Speed alone does not determine reckless driving." I got the same line of crap from a guy by the name of Walter Forgy, who
unless you hit one of their people.
Unless you hit one of their people, exactly.
Okay.
All right.
So he's here. He gets his coffee. Now what?
Now he's purports to take off and head back home.
Which is which way?
Taken to the right. He's going to be going southbound on 473. He's stating to the law enforcement officer that he's going 45, maybe 55. Take a right. Take a right. There you go. And he's going 40, maybe 45. And during the interview, he says, "I know you want to talk about this." He stops the interview, and the officer lets him. He says, "But last night when I'm driving through here, my wife says, 'Hey, look, there's a rider on a horse.'" And I'm thinking to myself, that's good enough for probable cause. It tells us that he's aware that this is an area where there are pedestrians. Mm-hmm. So also that you'll note as we come upon it, and we'll slow down for it, you're going to wind up seeing it's quite a ways ahead. You're going to wind up seeing that there's signage, and the signage is pretty much consistent to the way it was the night of the crash 2 years ago, that indicates a speed reduction to 40 miles an hour. and then it goes into pedestrians with the crosswalk. However, Lake County Bridges and Roads is struggling, really struggling to consider putting in even what they promised. They said they were going to put in those rapid rectangular flashing beacons. They said a year ago that was going to happen. Apparently, they've decided otherwise. Sometime in February of this year, they claim they're going to do another traffic survey.
Sure. Just
to let everybody know. Well, my sister was, in fact, in the crosswalk. I have indisputable evidence in pictures that were captured by the medical examiner.
What time did you say it was?
The accident was 7:55 p.m.
At what time of year?
It was January 12th. So today is the 13th,
so it was
correct?
dark out?
It was as dark as this, possibly darker.
Sure. And what was she going to?
She was walking home from a convenience store.
Okay.
She'd been working all day long. She went to buy a pack of cigarettes, and she was walking northbound on the east side of the roadway. There are no sidewalks here, so she was actually, in fact, there are briefly in front of, I think it's a community center or something, about an eighth of a mile to the south of the location. But there was a convenience store about a mile up the road, and she was walking basically from Northern Avenue northbound in the east side, but on a sidewalk. So at the point in time when she was getting ready to cross, there was a sidewalk and there's a marked crosswalk, and there's clear delineation that ahead there is a pedestrian crosswalk. Now, John, slow down here. This coming up here, this is the first road, Pine, right here. This is about 1,000 feet from the scene of the accident. The car ahead of us is crossing in through where the accident is right now. We're into 2 lanes of traffic, and the county wound up expanding all of this to 3 lanes because they had such a large number of rear impacts, people not paying attention while driving. Here's the school crossing, all the signage. As we're coming up, this is the first crosswalk. My sister Carolyn was in the second crosswalk, right in the white paint with her left foot, correct, right there. She was struck here, and her body wound up landing right here on the left, right there.
Right here.
Okay, that's it. Right, 188 feet from the area of impact. Law enforcement never got any closer than where they first found fragments of glass. Pictures that were taken, and I can prove this, never got any closer to the intersection, walking back towards the intersection from the body, than that 35 foot distance. And they never ever took pictures of the physical crosswalk. They didn't paint the scene. I believe they didn't bother. This is where she bought her damn cigarettes.
Right.
That food mart. So I guess you could probably slow down, turn around, and we could do a quick explanation when we get back to the scene of just exactly what we're seeing there.
Sure.
The driver of the vehicle.
You want me to go back to where?
Back to the intersection where it happened.
All right.
Because what you can do is when you get there, we'll turn off the headlights. You pull off to the side.
Yeah, we'll get out.
You turn off the headlights, and you all will be able to see just exactly how dark that area is. So Terry would walk apparently right through the back here somewhere and pop out someplace along the edge of the road. Now here's the curve in the road. Okay, you went up Northern. Okay, we made a mistake. We took a right turn. You're gonna have to zip back around here, John. I know you're not familiar with it.
Hit the pause button.
Hold on. You see the fire department sign right here? Okay, yeah, go ahead. You could take a left up ahead here. You pop back out. What we'll do is we'll come back around the back side.
All right.
This is Bassville, and it's kind of important that we talk about that, too.
Bassville?
Bassville.
What does that mean?
Bassville is, I guess, is one of the lesser desirable, and I apologize if you live in Bassville. My understanding is there's a pretty big meth problem in the out areas of Leesburg.
Pretty much any rural area.
Pretty much any rural area. But this area where the accident occurred is basically bordered by a community on one side of 473 that apparently there are some law enforcement issues with possible drugs. Okay, and you can go up a little bit harder.
If you pan to the right there.
Yeah.
I thought a red light meant like open for business.
Do you think so?
Isn't that what that means?
Turn on the red light.
I'm just saying.
Roxanne.
My bad. Go on.
Okay, I'm sorry. There's a possibility. You're right. Okay, we're going to turn left on Pine. Not this, but the next one I think is Pine. If not, maybe it's just a little farther than that, but someplace right up here.
It's Pine.
Yeah, that's it. Take a left here.
That's not Pine.
Nope, that's not Pine. That's more. But we're going to see. These are some pedestrians. Just to give you an idea. No, he didn't see him until he came right up on him. You know what's interesting, John, is this. Any place you turn left here, you'll be fine.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think they all cut through.
Okay.
But, you know, the thing of it is there are kids in this neighborhood. A lot of them, okay? And they do go to that school, the Treadway School. It's on the east side of County Road 473 off of Treadway School Road. And they have to cross that road every morning. And there are lights that flash when they cross, supposedly. I don't know how they're triggered. I don't know if they're on timers. I think you're going to take a left here to get out of the subdivision. I'm not familiar with it. And, of course, it's dark. But, yeah, we're going to get...
Hey.
Sooner or later, we're going to cross it. What do you see? Oh, yeah. Look at that, folks. That's what it looks like out here, just so you know. There's not a lot of lighting. And that particular area...
There's actually a postcard that's pitch black, and it says Florida at night.
Cereal?
Yeah.
Well... You know, I mean, I noticed they got a lot of highways. So you go any highway, you'd be hard-pressed to clear any highway without getting hit because you have so many lanes. That's a good thing if you're a motorist. You know, I mean, everybody wants to get to where they got to go in a big hurry.
Yep.
Now, this is 473, and this is the church. This is about the halfway point.
Okay.
I'm believing that our friend Joseph quite possibly was parked at the next road down at Pine. He's about 1,100 feet out. I did the data on
Why do you believe
a 2017 Malibu. The vehicle, the EDR winds up showing, the EDR is a control module that triggers the airbag in a collision. Now, in this particular collision, it didn't because you weren't hitting a stationary object, so to speak, or a vehicle. And my sister weighed about 160 pounds. It was substantial enough to actually register the collision and to set the EDR. But what an EDR does is it captures from 5 seconds prior to the collision backwards, and it gives you data points. It tells you what RPM the engine's at. It tells you you can pull shift points out, figure out what gear, but it tells you what the engine torque is at that particular point, peak torque, and it gives you throttle position. Now, in that particular car, his throttle position in the Bosch readout, the EDR readout, which was done by Florida Highway Patrol, showed that the vehicle was at wide open throttle from the 5 second to 4.5 second to 4 second to 3.5 to 3 to 2.5 to 2, 1.5 to 1. And then at 1 second, he pulled his foot out of the throttle, deep throttle, and went to the brake. The brake switch came on in that half-second interval. The car attained a speed of 72.7 miles an hour, according to the EDR, 1 second before the collision. And at the collision, it was 70.3 miles an hour. So there was some braking, and it was probably hard braking. But be mindful, if you do the math, at 72.7 miles an hour, car's going 104 miles an hour, or 104 feet per second. The headlights on your car, if you're not operating brights, you take a look at this right now. John's car, of course, we're pointed downward. When he levels off, when we do turn out, pay attention to about how far you have for headlights, and recognize that generally speaking, aimed headlights on a rental car, a brand new 2017 Malibu, tend not to blind the oncoming driver. They either go straight ahead on that left headlight module, or they turn slightly to the right. So, in effect, someone who's walking left to right in front of a vehicle, when they hit that double stripe cross mark, That's about the time you're going to see them. And that's the reason why we have reduced speeds, why we suggest when you enter an intersection, you slow down, why you pay attention to road signs that discuss the possibility of pedestrians. And yeah, I mean, you can't account for everything, but damn it, you're really not supposed to be wide open throttle. There's no explanation for why he was driving wide open throttle.
Just being a dummy.
Well, I think it could be more than that, John, because I believe...
A high dummy.
Well, yeah, it could be a high dummy. Our friend, Donna Marie Chaparro, left work at 7:30 from the Gator Bay. Okay. Gator Bay is about 4.5 minutes from here. Mm-hmm. The accident happened at 7:55. Mm-hmm. She's not accounting for missing 20 minutes. There's 20 minutes missing.
Who? From where? When?
Well, she left at 7:30 at work, and the accident happened at 7:55.
Okay.
She should have been driving through here at 7:33 or 7:35, not 55. She's missing 20 minutes.
She's saying she left at
clearly in the audio. Yep. She didn't even hesitate.
7:30, and then it took her. She's trying to say it took her 20 minutes 30 seconds.
She didn't realize what time the accident occurred, and she wasn't. It wasn't clear in her head that she was saying.
What's the correlation for this witness?
The witness wound up being an absolute perfect witness. She was behind the driver. She said she was pacing the driver. They were both going the same speed. She said she was going 40, maybe 45 miles an hour. And then she said that a quarter of a mile ahead, she could see something cross left to right in front of the vehicle, and she thought it was an animal. Now, then she saw brake lights, and she came upon the scene, and she pulls up, and she realizes an accident has occurred. Mm-hmm. And she says, it's a body, somebody. She never referred to my sister as a human being, but it was a body, somebody. Okay? Now, farther along in the witness statement with Officer Gensler from Florida Highway Patrol, she winds up saying, excuse me for thinking this, but I think she meant to do herself harm. Okay? So now my sister's running out in front. How opportunistic. She wants to kill herself, and it just so happens Joseph Anthony Downey from New York is driving through at 70 miles an hour. You might as well jump in front of that car. Now, I don't know if any of you have got enough nuts to step out in front of an accelerating car. Go to a drag strip once.
No thanks.
And think about it. You can't, because your brain can't make those adjustments. You're not a computer. Unless you're very familiar with speed and circumstance. So what we're going to do is now we're going to take the right-hand turn and we're going to head back to the scene. John, take it nice and slow. That's the church. That's really the only lighting here. Okay? As you look down the road, there's nothing. Can you pull just for a second? There you go. Could you imagine that? Now, lights are on. You see Treadway Elementary School, pedestrian crossing, school speed limit sign 20 when flashing, speeding fines doubled, and there's the pedestrian sign. Here's the first crosswalk. Now, what you're going to see is in the very center up here, you see, would you say that's pretty close to dead center of your vehicle?
Yeah.
That's where her body was in the 2017 Malibu.
Pretty much.
She's right here. This is where she got struck. And the white paint on the sole of her amputated foot, which landed down where that end school zone sign is, 260 feet out. Mm-hmm. Okay. The sole of the shoe shows white paint embossed into the sole. She was on the left ball foot. She had not transferred her weight to the right foot. Now, if you go online and you look at a high-speed crash dummy test in slow motion, you will notice an anatomically weighted, correct dummy in a perpendicular location in a crossing at a high rate of speed will wind up turning 90 degrees into the vehicle. Okay? Now, the driver wound up telling law enforcement that he saw her a little bit before the double yellow. Now, she's walking at 1.4 meters per second, which is the average speed of a female crossing without concern. It takes her a second and a half to get that 6-foot distance from that double yellow across. Now, he's also traveling 156 feet in that period in time. That's beyond his headlight. There's no way he could have seen her entering on that double yellow and hit her in the middle at that speed.
What year did this happen?
2017, January 12th.
So
2 years ago.
There's a law in effect that you could do 5 to 10 years for going 25 over. And they passed, I know it was before 2017. So that might be something you could look into also.
What, a pedestrian strike? See, what they're saying is that the
speeding alone, you could do 5 to 10 for going 30 over.
for speeding?
For going 30.
Not even for hitting a person?
No, just for going. They tried to pass it for motorcyclists, and then the bikers were like, "Well, that's not fair. That they don't get to." And then they're like, "All right, we'll do it for everybody."
Okay, there's Molokai. That's where Grandma and Grandpa live.
Okay.
Right. And so did it happen?
So that's it. I mean,
we'll look into it.
Yeah.
You know, what's interesting about this is they wound up changing the name of the driver. Okay.
Who?
Law enforcement. I'm assuming it would have been Officer Gensler. Gensler winds up, they start off with the police report. You're going to love this. Florida Highway Patrol sends us, we wind up getting the first copy, and this would have happened sometime in February, within 4 weeks after the accident. In the accident, they have a scenario where Downey is going 40 miles an hour, and the second vehicle hits her at 40 miles an hour and drags her several feet. That's what they said. Okay? In that report, they list the date of expiration of the tag on the car, which is ridiculous because you do it by month here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they had a day and a month. I don't have it with me, but I could show it to you.
It's usually the last day of your birthday month or something.
Okay. And then it has a listing of the date of birth of the unknown driver. The date of birth of the unknown driver.
What do you mean?
The day and the month and the year of the unknown driver.
His birthday?
Hers, we don't know. You
Why?
take a right if we're heading back to the hotel.
Why are they unknown?
It's impossible because, well, first of all, they claim there was a second driver, but not the witness or the driver stated there was a second car. It was Downey, and then it was her. She was right behind him. There was no car in between. See, when I got that report and I saw that, I'm like, what? So I wound up calling the medical examiner. So, yeah, we're talking about that. No, the situation is that when I looked at that and I went, wait a minute, I knew that, you know, my sister was LBGT her whole life. And she had a partner, and the partner went to view the body. Phyllis went to view her body. Whoa, okay. And she said, I asked her, I said, was she dragged? And she said no. So I called the medical examiner, and
Who
the medical
said no?
Phyllis. She saw her body. And
Okay.
yeah, I mean, if you're run over by a vehicle, physically run over by, I mean, you guys have seen roadkill. You know what it looks like when it's rolled over.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's terrible. She was intact, but she was separated at the waist. She was L9. She was torn in half. It was a very small. It's too much. Anyway, medical examiner told me that the injuries were consistent with the 70-mile-an-hour crash. And that's the first I'd heard of that. And all of a sudden, Florida Highway Patrol suddenly has that in their report. And it shows up in the EDR. They had no intention of ever letting us know that the accident happened at that speed. The citation of the driver, the accident happened January 12, 2017. And the citation of the driver wound up being put up on the 20th of June. So it was 5 months and 8 days thereafter. And they changed his name.
So what do they claim? An accident?
It was an accident. Absolutely, he couldn't stop.
But he couldn't stop because he was being negligently speeding.
Well, here's the deal.
Reckless. He's being reckless.
You would think in a death investigation. Now, they blood tested her in her death because they wanted to know what her alcohol content was. Yeah, you get in the left lane at Ruby Tuesday. So the next left turn. Yeah. Okay. Right here.
You're right.
At Hampton. Yeah, that's it. The officer in the interview, there was 20 minutes between Donna Marie Chaparro's interview and Joseph Anthony Downey's interview.
That's a witness. And
That's the witness and the driver.
Mm-hmm.
And the witness was answering questions before the officer was asking them. Okay, literally. And she was donating all kinds of stuff like, it was definitely outside of the crosswalk. I mean, stuff that you wouldn't, why would you say that? Why? First of all, how would you see that from a quarter of a mile away in absolute darkness?
She's like
right.
feeding them
yeah.
information to cover for him.
Well, they used it throughout the investigation and the mitigation by the state attorney's office. Mm-hmm. State attorney, when you guys see that, and I'll make that stuff available too through John.
Sure.
But what winds up happening is they 3 times before the end of his interview, he stated that he would submit to blood alcohol, a blood test. Now, mind you, they can give you a breathalyzer test, they can give you a urine test, and they can give you a blood test. He stated 3 times that he would, whatever you want, I'll give you, whatever, and then they end the interview. And then 5 months later, when the report comes out, 5 months, 10 days later, on the 22nd of June, the report says, it doesn't say he offered to submit 3 times, it says he refused a blood draw. It says he refused a blood draw.
And this guy is who? Who is he?
Who is he? He's a tree cutter. He works for Ashland out of Whitney Point, New York.
This is Joseph Downey.
Joseph Anthony Downey.
What was he doing here?
He was visiting his family, his wife's family, in Grand Island. And the family.
He had a rental car and he was beating on it.
Yeah. He was hammering a rental car.
And do you want to add in the part where you believe he was?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's kind of an interesting thing. We can talk about that, but let's do it in this context. Because John and I had a discussion about what I believe. I believe that he was under an influence, all right. And I think it was probably something closer to meth, not alcohol.
Why, though?
Why?
Yeah.
The neighborhood. Very popular in that neighborhood.
Okay.
There doesn't seem to be any history on this guy, interestingly enough. We wound up getting his driving abstract out of New York.
What does that mean?
The driving abstract is a record of all of his vehicular infractions. In other words, speeding, alcohol consumption,
nationwide
whatever.
Or just New York?
Well, that's an interesting thing because it's supposed to be. Florida is a state that has what they call a driver's license agreement, and they have a non-resident violators compact. And in both instances, it's the obligation of the director of licensing in the state where an issuance of a citation with a conviction in a moving violation is supposed to be sent back to the home state, the licensing agency of the driver. And in this particular instance, a private investigator got this information, a driving abstract from the state of New York, and very interestingly, we find out that on September 4th of 2018, so just recently, our driver winds up, he's a good guy, this man here. Very good, thank you. Anyway, the driver winds up getting a DWI with a speeding. He's going 52 in a 35, and he blows a 0.12.
The guy who hit your sister?
Guy who hit my sister, correct.
So he was drunk?
Well, no, this was the violation in New York in September.
So he's got a record of bad driving mixed with alcohol.
This was afterwards. This is him still driving like an idiot with borrowed cars. It wasn't his car. He had 3 co-workers. He told the law enforcement officer they were doing work up in Lake George in Warrenburg, New York. I wind up calling the officer, and the officer was very cooperative. Matthew Fish winds up telling me that this kid's driving fast. He turns his quad around. He pulls up behind him. He pulls him, follows him. Kid ducks behind a building. He goes over. He explains, well, I saw you following me, so I pulled over for you. He wasn't trying to evade. He was hoping maybe the cop would go by. Cop pulls him over, smells alcohol, separates him from the vehicle, has him do the tests, sobriety, the leg test. He realizes this guy's drunk. He says, had a couple of beers. Okay, he's 6 foot tall, 250 pounds. He's built like I am roughly, okay? You get below a .12 at the scene of an accident, not an accident, but an infraction, a violation, on 2 beers. You're looking at a 12-pack, maybe 9. 9 if you just factor the alcohol without the
Fully
time or
intoxicated.
whatever. Okay, he was intoxicated. He's going 52 miles an hour. They wind up asking him if he's ever been arrested before, and he says no. Well, his abstract doesn't show anything from Florida.
Was he arrested here?
Well, he was cited here, and there was a conviction. Okay,
But no arrest, right?
No, but according to the pact,
Mm-hmm.
the pact says that the director of they call him a compact administrator, the director of licensing in the state of Florida, has a legal obligation to clearly identify the driver. That means by the right name. Okay, then they're supposed to send it to the home state. It never got sent there. So the state of New York thought this guy was all lily clean. He didn't do anything, right? So let's cut him a break. They took the speeding off of his citation.
After this.
September the 4th, right, of this year, this last year, the 18th.
And did you not say that he is related to somebody in government?
What I can tell you is this.
Just the facts, though. Facts.
Just the facts. I spent 2 years investigating this. It's very, very difficult without DNA or without a family history to be able to connect people. However, we looked at this and we thought, Downey, how is Downey connected in New York? Who would give this guy some latitude with a citation, a violation? And
why?
There was a Raymond Downey. He was a firefighter, and he died. He was a captain out of New York. We discounted that. It didn't look like there was any family relationship. I went through Ben Verified. I did backgrounds. I did all kinds of stuff. I couldn't find anything. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then I turned my attention to the wife. Now, his social media thread disappeared, completely gone.
Okay.
Until we realized that Joellen Rooney, his mother-in-law, has him listed as a friend, so you can find his social media under Joseph Downey on hers, but that's the only place you can find it. The daughter is Megan Ann Rooney. Okay.
So who are the Rooneys?
Well, it's hard to know for sure whether they truly, in fact, are related. There are a lot of Rooneys. I'm sure there are lots and lots.
Okay.
Okay. Rooneys down in Florida? Well, there was a Francis Rooney and a Thomas Rooney. They were both United States congressmen. Thomas Rooney, they're not related.
And Downey and Rooney have what to do with each other?
They're married to each other.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And the Rooneys are
potentially related to the people who own the Pittsburgh Steelers. Art Rooney.
Okay.
And Thomas Rooney, however, the United States congressman, who of course would have enough pull to have Gene Spalding from Florida Highway Patrol order this to go away. Okay, make this look like a simple accident. And of course, the state attorneys speed alone and stand by that no matter what. Okay. Regardless of all the deficiencies in the investigation. I mean, it's just fraught with, it's terrible. I mean, you look at it, like I said, you got the number, it's 717-12-003. You can pull up the crash report. And when you start looking at it...
Where would you pull that up at?
Crash report it's available through Florida Highway Patrol, public record. You'd have to pay for it there. If somebody needs a copy, I think we could probably get it through like an email.
What's some really important points you want to make about the whole story?
Well, the most important thing I think is, you guys got a chance to see what the intersection looks like. I mean, it's a death trap. Back in 2011, they wound up expanding it from 2 lanes to 3 lanes at all 4 sides of the intersection, and they have 2 hexagonal stop signs without any flashing lights or anything on the auxiliary roads, the side roads. Okay. Now it takes you 50% more time to walk across that intersection. And regardless of whether you're going one way or the other, any crossing traffic, you're put into harm's way most imminently as you complete your walk across that last 50% that add 50. So now it takes you 150 because it's 3 lanes instead of 2, 50, 50, 50. Okay. Lake County doesn't seem to want to do anything about fixing that in that intersection.
Okay.
It's very dangerous. People, they're constantly getting angled.
Sounds like they need some speed humps.
They need something. You know, I mean,
Those things work very, very well.
they'll slow. Yeah, exactly. They will. But in
I've
this
hit, I've hit a
particular-
few of them pretty hard, and I regretted it.
Yeah, yeah. This particular incident, you have the loss of life, and it almost seems like nobody seems to care. You know, I want to tell everybody, my sister was a Marine. She served honorably.
What was her name?
Carolyn Ann Slamka, age 61.
Okay.
We didn't know until
She
after
was older than you?
Yeah, I'm 56. We didn't know it until after she died, but it was reported by the the Blood Center of Wisconsin. She had donated 229 pints of blood in her lifetime.
Wow.
Do the math. Every 8 weeks, figure it out.
Wow.
Okay. She volunteered her time extremely generously. She's missed. I
I'm
hope
sure.
she's in a better place. But, you know, I mean, it's just like so many, hey, thank you, so many other people out there who have this happen to them, and then it's just forgotten. You know, John, I was talking to you, I think I told you about Megan J. Savage, someplace around here in Florida. She was struck, she was in the hospital. She was in the hospital when my sister got killed in January of 2017. She spent 27 days in the hospital.
There's a ton of that here.
She was struck by a law enforcement officer off duty, drunk off his ass. An off-duty detective from Mount Dora. And then the cop the cop never got cited.
Oh, why would he? He's a sovereign.
He's a sovereign. And then you take a look at Michael Ray Roach. And you pull up Michael Ray Roach and see what Walter Forgey, the state attorney, the guy who's dismissing my sister's thing, and you tell me that guy isn't the world's best defense attorney.
You familiar with Highway 19?
Yeah.
That happens so many pedestrian strikes on that road. I don't know what it is.
You know, you're asking me why, what needs to change in this state? And this is important. Why the heck does law enforcement have the ability to make probable cause determinations in a traffic fatality on a pedestrian strike? Why is it not mandatory that the driver take and give something? I mean, we had a driver
not only that, I
who
thought
didn't give blood, didn't give urine.
I thought the coroner was actually took jurisdiction over when there was a body. No?
I don't know.
That's what the law is in Wisconsin. I know that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well,
because in the Avery trial, the coroner who had worked for that county for 14 years, they called her up that night, like, do not come to this scene, we will arrest you. Even though, according to
her jurisdiction.
Not only her jurisdiction, when there's a fatality, she can arrest the sheriff.
Well, John, you and I both know there's something wanky going on there.
There's something wanky going on everywhere, man, and I'm glad you could get this story out. And anything else you want to throw in there? Because we're going to still film tomorrow. I'm going to wake up in the morning and go look at it during the day, get some B-roll and all that good stuff. You can sleep on it too, man. It's not like you have to get it all out now.
There's always going to be more, you know?
Sure.
You look at something like this and...
What can we do about this guy? Where is he?
He's in New York, or he could be visiting in Florida.
So he's a free and clear...
He got a 6-month suspension on his driving record.
But currently he's free and clear, like he basically hit a dog or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no record anywhere that he killed my sister. There's
not on his driving record.
Not in his name. No, not his driving record. State of Florida's got nothing on him for it. They were intent on trying to figure out how to bury this thing. I look at this.
Why?
Because he knows somebody. This is a good old boy thing. I guarantee you. At the end of the day, if you ask the Florida Highway Patrol how this could possibly happen, how does a person's name get changed on a report? It's not possible. There are people who sign off on it.
Why do they use 3 names anyway?
So they can swap them around, maybe? I don't know. Why are they allowed?
I'm trying to think if I ever got a ticket with all 3 names.
Does this make sense to you? On the cover sheet of the Florida Highway Patrol Traffic Homicide Investigation, it says, this is verbatim, this investigation does not meet the requirements of the Florida Highway Patrol for review by the State Attorney's Office. When do they have authority over the State Attorney's Office on that? That's ridiculous.
So what you're saying is they should send every fatality to the state attorney and let them decide?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For them to say that they're not going to send it. Why? Why would they do that? It's because they don't want this one prosecuted. Make it go away.
Selective enforcement.
Well, yeah. You know what? My sister was just somebody who was drinking too much, and you know it's her fault for stepping in front of a car. And maybe some people believe that. Oh, yeah. How do you make it to 61? How do you donate 229 pints of blood? How are you a Marine?
Who's making that argument?
Well, the witness, Donna Marie Chaparro.
Besides her, because she has conflict, obviously.
Yeah.
Nobody else is that dumb, right? That you know of?
Hey, well, law enforcement is trying to suggest that this was an accident and
Again.
she had blame in it. Hey, John, this is no kidding. They actually stated that had she survived, they would have cited her for being out of the crosswalk. Okay? Except they couldn't prove that she was or wasn't because they didn't investigate. They never painted the scene.
Not too far.
We're going to find out that the Florida Highway Patrol didn't follow protocol.
Not too far from here, 18-year veteran of the police force sent his lieutenant a toy bomb as a joke. That's the level of intelligence that they put to work with guns and people's lives. And like, for instance, you know,
Was there a consequence for that?
You're missing your loved one, and they're playing effing games with your life.
Well, but I guess to say it, you know what, folks, somebody's got to do this. I like to fight corruption. I do it in Wisconsin with organized labor, sadly. But at the end of the day, the idea is try to make the road safe for everybody. Hey, you know, in state statute 322.44, it states that the mission is actually to create a safer environment. Now,
the mission of what? The traffic code?
The traffic code
Right.
and law enforcement.
Right.
I mean, if the idea is to just let people that you know skate away, you know, Michael Ray Roach,
Right.
look that one up. You know, I mean, I'm sure he's a great guy. He was hammered. He couldn't even walk. And the prosecuting attorney, Walter Forgy, said that law enforcement forgot to advise him that it was going from traffic to criminal. When you're read your rights, you're under the impression that you are criminally being charged, right?
I would believe so.
Okay. So, and because they didn't have a full body cam on him and portions of his feet weren't shown when he was doing this, they had to throw the case out. Take a look at any of the stuff that Forgy does that he doesn't bother to prosecute, and you can see that this guy is expert at figuring out how to throw cases under the bus.
Who is Forgy again?
Walter Forgy's assistant state attorney out of Lake County.
Are you cold yet?
No, I'm good.
I'm cold.
Yeah, okay.
We're going to continue this in the morning. Stand by. Stand by.
The transmission of...
What is all that stuff?
That's the codes regarding...
Is this all your research or what?
Well, all this stuff is, yeah. I mean, this isn't all of it. It just goes on and on and on. You know that. I mean, when you're doing something like this. Lake County Sheriff.
So how are you getting closure for this, man?
How am I getting closer to it?
Closure. What's the closure? What's the end game? What do you want done?
There's going to be an admission that there was misfeasance. I mean, this is clearly a case that somebody's covering up for somebody who's important. Somebody. That individual really should be serving some justice for what he did, even if it was just negligence. I mean, he must have... You can't drive around as an individual, whether you're under an influence or not, as a motorist, and not have respect for the people who are pedestrians or in other vehicles. And ignorance or lack of understanding. He's an operator of a motor vehicle. He's licensed in the state of New York.
See, what people get mad at me about is, you know, they're so quick to make all this money off speeders and stop sign rollers, but you have a situation here where a person died, and justice is not served.
No, there's no interest in serving it because, well, it's a lot of work.
What's that picture right there?
This picture is a picture of the shoes from the corner taken. We have all this in color. This particular shoe is from the shoe of the amputated foot. Right in here, you can see
the white paint.
Impression, the white paint. It's hard to see on the photo clearly, but that was Officer Steve Lampata, a retired police officer from the Kenosha Police Department. I went to college with him at Stevens Point back in '82. Steve looked everything over one day, came up, spent about 3 hours, checked it all out, and he says, "That's your smoking gun." He said, "What that is that's the impression of the paint in the crosswalk when her foot was implanted, when her body was spun on impact, and when it embossed the paint into the shoe. If she would have been struck anywhere other than there, if she would have had paint on her foot, it would have been removed."
That's your smoking gun, but there's no trial.
Well, what's going to have to happen is we'll have to bring it forward in a federal action.
Okay.
Federal action is going to ultimately cause them to have to come and swear on a witness stand, and there are going to be all kinds of inconsistency. But most importantly, what we're going to find out is that the Florida Highway Patrol did not follow protocol on this. There has to be a protocol. They seem to have a tough time releasing that information to me. No, I haven't done a FOIL on it. I guess that's the next thing that I have to do. But, I'm not an attorney. I'm learning this on my own. And what I will tell you is attorneys won't touch this stuff with a stick. They know that they rely on law enforcement to make their case. In other instances, usually you're not going after law enforcement. Usually you're going after a defendant in a case as a plaintiff. In this particular instance, I'm calling fall. I'm saying that this is a case of misfeasance, which is basically a violation of the public trust in that law enforcement, I believe, was told to make this look like it was a simple accident. It's not. When you start changing the name of the driver and then you have no explanation for how the heck that could happen. I mean, you can't take a piece of paper and flip it over and say, now the driver's name is Anthony Joseph. It's not Joseph Anthony anymore.
How did that benefit him?
How to benefit the driver? Well,
yeah.
The driver he's got an alias now in the state of Florida on a record that never got sent back to the state of New York per state statute in Florida. The administrator is
Now,
a compact administrator.
So could you FOIA that information and forward it to New York?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It states in this, under the article of 322.44, it states that a person may do that. It doesn't say that
Okay, good.
the state necessarily has to do it. I'm still with my rights.
So you can close that gap then.
Well, it can. But what's really funny is the state's probably going to look at this. They say Article 3, Section 6, and I'm used to this kind of double speak. The licensing authority of the issuing jurisdiction shall not transmit a report on a violation if the date of the transmission is more than 6 months after the date on which the traffic citation was issued. But it also clearly states that issuing authority, that being the state of Florida in this case in a traffic conviction, is supposed to clearly identify that driver and forward that information to any compact state, that being the state of New York, one of 44 states.
Which they did not do.
They didn't do it. They refused to do it. They're acting like this guy doesn't exist.
So you get those records and you send them certified mailed to
Oh, yeah. Well, I got cooperation in New York.
registered mail.
The people in New York, now this is not the Department of Motor Vehicles I'm talking to in New York, but the people in New York with Warrensburg Sheriff's Department were exceptional. They gave me every cooperation, extended every courtesy. They don't want this guy doing what he's doing right now. You get pulled over in the state of New York, driving drunk, you fail every test, you blow a .12, you're speeding, you're going 52 in a 35, and you're in a vehicle now, a borrowed vehicle again, because it was a rental the first time around. And in this particular instance, he's got 3 guys in the car with him. And those 3 guys are all too drunk to drive. So law enforcement arrests him, takes him, processes him, takes the keys with. When he's sobered up, they give him a cab and they send him back, and he goes and grabs the car. And presuming the car was still there, I don't know, because there's no way for us to validate that. But these guys were all too drunk to drive, so they all just kind of crashed in the car. But the problem is when his court appearance occurred on the, I think it was the 13th of October in 2018, the resolution came on the 30th. Law enforcement in New York didn't have everything they needed to process this case because they had no idea that he was involved in a traffic fatality and a speeding incident, a gross speeding incident. Now, mind you, he was recorded according to the event data recorder, or the seatbelt deployment module located under the seat of the car, which captures inertia and all kinds of dynamics. He was recorded actually going 72.6 miles an hour 1 second before the collision. Collision occurred at 70.3 miles per hour.
So he's probably going Closer to 80.
No, I would say it's probably someplace in between that 70 that you can exceed, but the breaking point, you really don't know. It's a half-second interval. So he was on an upward curve, but you can't.
He had to be going a
capture all the
smidge
data.
faster.
Probably, yeah, exactly. Most likely he was going a smidge faster.
Because
So
if he hit the brake, you slow down a little.
you're talking a 40 mile an hour, okay? But they tell you when you approach an intersection, you're supposed to reduce your speed. You know, because you don't, clearly in an extremely dark intersection. So one could presume, although it's a 40 mile an hour speed zone, he was really going twice as fast as he should have gone.
Pretty much.
Pretty much, okay? And he didn't seem to have a problem with doing it twice. Now, the state of New York, now, when this information moves back to New York, I will make sure it gets there, don't worry. When it makes it back, I will let them know that the city or the county prosecutor gets to revisit that particular case. I don't know if there's a double jeopardy clause that's going to cause him to escape, but he did in fact state to law enforcement that he'd never been arrested before. Now, conviction in the state of Florida on a speeding issue, we don't know yet whether that's actually an arrest, and I'm pretty sure they're going to argue that it's not. But
did they take him into custody that night?
Yes, they did. They took him into custody.
And took him to the jail?
0.12, and then they actually did him again at the station house, and he was 0.13.
Did they put him in a cage?
That I don't know.
Did he have to spend the night?
No.
But if they put cuffs on you, they take you to the station, they make you take a breath test. That sounds like you were arrested to me.
No, that time he was.
Oh.
The first incident, he was absolutely not arrested.
With your sister?
He was allowed to stay on scene until they released him.
With your sister, he wasn't arrested?
He was not arrested.
Oh, see, I didn't catch that in all this stuff.
No, and he was not cited that night either.
You're kidding me.
No, his citation came June 20th, was the first date that they cited him, and I believe that was after we got involved in this with the coroner. Once they realized that I knew that she was not, the first scenario, which was BS, the two cars, first car, driver Anthony Joseph Downey, not Joseph Anthony Downey. Second car, unknown.
The real name is what, though?
Joseph Anthony Downey.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that they ever intended to actually cite him. I really don't believe that they ever actually.
Especially if they knew him.
And who knows? You know, I mean, somewhere in there, somebody did somebody an extreme kindness. I can't believe that this was just an empathetic response to some poor guy who's got a couple of kids accidentally hit the throttle and now he's going to have to suffer for that. You look at it and you say, okay, so a human being was destroyed violently. Okay. Law enforcement, the officer who actually did the investigation alleged in court on October the 11th of 2017 for the speeding citation, which the driver did not appear. His attorney did, Chad Frost. They actually, he alleged that he's done 1,000 of these cases, traffic homicides, in 14 years. And that guy goes on the scene and he looks at a car that is destroyed. And John, I'll show you the pictures. When you see him, you'll go, well, how could anybody mistake that for a 40 mile an hour collision? There was collusion between the driver, the witness, and law enforcement to make this look like nothing ever happened. And they assumed that I wouldn't figure it out. I did.
So what are we doing today?
Today we're going to have, by noon, we're going to actually have Adriana Ivashinsky, very nice lady. She was here 2 years ago, and she did a shoot without us. Today, my dad and myself will be on scene. We'll have an opportunity to talk to her prior to shoot. We'll explain just exactly what this is. It's an effort, first of all, to procure safety at that intersection. I think it's extremely important that is the end goal. Make sure we have security for the people who live there. There are kids who cross that road, that highway every day, going to school. I would say the county, who is responsible for that highway, who does the safety surveys, who get to ultimately spend the money and authorize, I would think it would be wise for them to actually invest in safety prior to the next fatality, because I will tell you, they get another fatality, you're looking at a class action lawsuit, and by that particular time, I'm going to be all up on those guys so bad for their failure to do what they should have done.
And which police is jurisdiction?
It's county. It's
Leesburg?
County nope, it's Lake County.
Oh, Lake.
Leesburg
is the city. Leesburg is the city.
Right.
How about Highway Patrol? Are they there?
Highway Patrol, absolutely, because of the fact that it was, in fact, a traffic homicide.
They were there.
They were there.
But they're not ruling it as a traffic homicide.
I'm sorry?
They're not ruling it as a
No,
traffic.
absolutely not. They said it was an accident. It was a speeding incident,
All
basically.
right. So we're getting ready to go here,
Yeah.
and I'll resume on scene. Oh, okay, so this is what now?
This is the police report from Warren County Sheriff's.
Go ahead.
This is an individual that is Joseph Anthony Downey. It's got his, I don't know if his DL's on there or not, but it was dated September 4, 2018. The incident occurred at 10:30 p.m. on Main Street in Warrensburg, New York. Officer Matthew Fish.
So this part here is what?
These are statements made from the driver in response to questions asked from the officer. Where were you going? I was headed to Lake George. Why did you pull off into the parking lot behind this structure? I wanted to get off the roadway. I saw you turning around. Where were you coming from?
I didn't know, Bob. We stopped at that place. He said he pulled off apparently?
No, Dad, this is New York. This is New York. This
is from New York?
This is New York. I was coming from the hotel in Indian Lake.
You got something from what happened here?
No, we don't have any conversation
this is-
besides the audio. We have the audio with the officer, but we didn't have any written documentation. There actually is a report that has his name, Joseph Anthony Downey, authored by the officer Gensler, Brian Gensler, which makes it really hard for me to understand how that paperwork gets turned over, and the report writer, Officer Omar Aquino, winds up changing his name to Anthony Joseph Downey, because it happened in that transition.
Right.
Along with Officer Brian Gensler going and talking to the medical examiner at the bottom of the scene, roughly where it occurred, telling him, the medical examiner, that she was wandering south and she walked into the road with her back facing traffic, and she was struck outside of the crosswalk. That was the cops' attempt to place her out of the crosswalk.
Even if she's, when they say out of the crosswalk?
Crosswalk is a safety zone.
Yeah, but when you say out of the crosswalk,
right,
do you mean out
onto the lane of traffic ahead of it? In other words, beyond is what they're saying.
Beyond what?
Beyond the white crosswalk mark. It's about 6 foot wide. Those broad stripes are about a foot wide and about 6 foot in length, and they're parallel.
You're talking about the little painted walkway.
Correct. That's a safe zone. If you technically,
Now,
if somebody
when someone
witnesses
says
you,
you're out of it, they mean to the left or right of that?
no, they mean forward or back of it. In other words,
If you're out of the
standing in middle-
crosswalk, but if you're out of the crosswalk all the way at either end, that means the car shouldn't be able to strike you.
No. They're saying that she was not utilizing the crosswalk. She was farther south. They said that she took a shortcut across, and because she did, she no longer qualifies for the safe zone, which makes it criminal.
Oh, in other
They're
words,
saying the difference between civil and criminal, it could be this much distance. If somebody could prove that person really was. And the only proof came from...
the shoe.
No.
What?
The shoe proved that she was in the crosswalk.
Yeah.
The only proof came from an eyewitness a quarter of a mile away in absolute darkness, saying first that she saw an animal, what she thought was an animal. The first time she identified my sister as a human being, she said she came upon the scene, the car was stopped, she knew there was an accident, and she goes, oh my God, it's a body, somebody, okay? But then she tells the officer that I believe, excuse me for saying this, but I believe that she intended to do herself harm, and she ran in front of that car. Wasn't consistent with what the driver stated.
All of a sudden, it's like biased.
Well, no, I believe it was coached, and I think it was designed to have an alibi for him to keep him from having to be charged. See, if they actually suspected him of being in that, having her in the crosswalk and hitting her that way, they'd have to proceed forward criminally. They didn't intend to do that. Everything that they did was geared to keep it from being a criminal investigation. If law enforcement wouldn't have just stopped and taken that picture with Sergeant McDaniels from Lake County with the squad parked perpendicular just inside of the intersection from the crosswalk. The last picture that was taken before they jumped across and then took pictures down the road, no skid mark pictures ever taken, no paint the scene, turn the camera down. They took a picture from roughly 35 feet away from that crosswalk where the turn arrow was. That's the last picture they took. And when you take that picture, and you'll see it, and you blow it up and you look at the lower right-hand corner, you see four little specks of pink. That's bone mass. That was from her knee joint. So Law enforcement didn't have any intention of ever doing anything that could be used as evidence to prove.
Now,
They never collected the shoe.
do you believe when they showed up on scene, they recognized the driver as someone they knew?
No, I don't believe that. I believe that they were.
What motive would they have to not go forward with criminally? What?
Both of the officers who arrived on the scene by badge number, one of them is Aquino.
Mm-hmm.
I'm speculating that the other 1002 arrival was Gensler.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that Gensler and Aquino were pulled apart from Norgard and Akins. Norgard and Akins were troopers. They arrived before these guys.
Yeah.
There are 2 additional badges that are missing too, and I'm saying that they're Sergeant Campbell from Florida Highway Patrol and Lieutenant Willix, but they're not identified in the police report. Also missing Officer Johnson from Lake County and Officer Rodriguez from Lake County. Now, Johnson called at 1097 at 10 o'clock when these 2 officers, 2 minutes before they arrived on the scene. Officers swapped out, and now you had Florida Highway Patrol troopers at the perimeters. That would have been Akins and Norgard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And roadblocks and barricades and traffic signage put up. Then those guys moved closer to the scene so they could engage in it. They had Officer Norgard create a scenario where there were 2 cars. He's the report writer on the accident scene collision. Norgard told me in a conversation on the phone in March of this last year that he doesn't have a recollection of writing the second report or the report on the second car. That 2-car theory is spoken of absolutely nowhere else besides in his report. And as I told you, interestingly enough, in that particular report, it actually lists the date of expiration, not the month of the expiration of the unknown vehicle, the hit and run, the alleged hit and run, but they also have the date of birth to the date of that hit and run driver, which is absolutely impossible.
Right.
You can't have an unknown driver and have a date of birth. So they've got that scenario. Then they have the witness scenario. That's number 2. Then they have Downey's scenario. That's number 3. Then you have Gensler.
Briefly tell me about the Downey scenario again.
Downey stated that he was driving down. He was going 45, maybe 55. I wouldn't lie to you because I'm under oath, that type of thing. And he's stating that he's driving down the road and he's coming for coffee and then he's going back to catch a movie with his wife. And he's just driving along and then he stops the interview and he says, "Oh, I have to tell you, last night I went through here with my wife and she said that there was a rider on a horse." He was trying to make the case that it was too dark for him to actually see, but he didn't realize effectively what he was doing was he was making a statement that he consciously knew that this is not a place you should be going wide open throttle. Okay. He says he sees her stepping off the double yellow an instant before the strike, that she walks forward, she never turns to look, she didn't even try. And that's where he stopped with that. And then he said she went up over the car and that was the end of the accident. And I pulled my car up and I stopped. And I probably shouldn't have done this, but I moved the car off to the right-hand side of the road. He didn't say who told him to do it or whether it was just his idea, but he extended the distance from the intersection. Mm-hmm. Now, at 70.3 miles an hour, you're awful close to a 70 to 0 stopping distance. So that information's a known on a 2017 Malibu.
Right.
If he struck her at the crosswalk and the vehicle only went so far and it stopped dead cold and he threw it in park and then jumped out to witness, or if he threw it back in drive and pulled off to the side and drove another 60 feet and parked the car, by extending that distance, that allows Florida Highway Patrol to say, well, it was within that stopping distance, so we have no idea where the accident occurred. Except they never processed beyond where they saw the glass particles. That was the point of the area of impact, not the point. They never went to the point of impact. They failed in their duty to actually do, according to protocol, an investigation on this. And this is something that Gensler, with 14 years of experience in THI, as he had stated, it's absolutely unacceptable.
And no breath test was taken.
Never. Not that they recorded.
No field sobriety tests.
Nobody indicated that. There's no record of any passing or failing on any field sobriety test. No. There's no record of that.
So he hits your sister, pulls over.
At 7:55 p.m.
It was dark, though, because it was wintertime.
Correct.
He hits your sister, pulls over.
Lake County arrives on scene.
Lake County arrives on scene. And what do they do with the driver at this point?
Driver's sitting off the side of the road, sitting and waiting for Florida Highway Patrol.
And now when does the witness show up?
Witness was there immediately. She was right behind it. She was with him the whole time.
They were together?
Yeah, they never segregated them. They had 3 hours to sit there. The driver said, I've been thinking about this for a long time. So he knew to say 45 to 55.
So Lake County sheriffs show up?
Yes, within minutes.
They secure the scene?
Correct.
Then what happens?
Well, they seal off at Northern. They seal off over at South Haines Road.
Okay.
And they basically put vehicles around the actual crash scene.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is that Officer Carl Johnson winds up identifying her. According to the CAD call here from Lake County, it states that he called in her name. It was erroneous. It missed the birth date and a couple of things. It was dark. But Lake County has an incident report, but no actual police report.
And the Joseph Anthony Downey drove home that night with no charges, no tickets, no nothing. Anticipation.
There it is. It's right near the ground now.
It's coming this way.
Sandhill Crane.
Yep.
Oh.
All right, we're on scene now. Right, Sunset Avenue and 473. The news is here, setting up his tripod. Robert's talking to the news lady right now. There's his dad. He was actually in World War II. Adriana Awinsky. I forgot her name. All right, so here we are, day 2. On the corner of Camp Street and 473. You can see cars are going by here pretty quick. And Robert has a way of talking that, for me, I really got to pick out the focal points. So, if I'm understanding the story correctly, this driver, Joseph Anthony Downey, went to get a coffee. And the bartender from the Gator Bay somehow was right behind him, even though Robert's saying the times don't link up. Anyway, he's coming down this way, and according to Robert and the computer data, he was going 72 miles per hour. In other words, he's speculating, because I can't confirm or deny any of this, but I told the guy I'd cover the story, so here I am, Leesburg. And so if he's doing 72 miles an hour coming down this road right here, and he's coming at 72 miles an hour and it's dark, and right here is where he struck Robert's sister. I guess her severed leg was somewhere, and then took her, and then she landed over here, and he pulled over. But the problem is that he basically walked away from the scene. No breathalyzer was done. It seems like the police didn't do their due diligence to see if there was neglect, drunkenness, or, just misconduct. And then the name switching around and all that stuff. So there you go. And then now they're here and they're about to do interview with Adriana Awinsky. This is what you call your real news. And then Pop, this is a good guy, World War II veteran. Born in 1930. Here's something professional media does it. I'm not sure why they do it, and I feel uncomfortable doing it myself, but they always ask your first, last name and how to spell it. Kind of throws you off. Kind of throws everything off. So I'm sure someone will tell me what the purpose of that is, though.
You can see from Bibles, she was a lot like that. involved in things. She loved animals. Over her life, she had several dogs. And she had a lot of other animals when in Wisconsin she lived in it almost a lot.
Actually, ain't on the right side. It's on the right side. The right side.
He's gonna get your chest up here, I think, right? I gave up on that a long time ago.
I was kidding.
I like being filmed from the waist down.
He's holding his breath.
It's not worth it.
No, no.
It's not worth it. I stopped doing it a long time ago. Bob, to come back here 2 years after the death of your sister, what is it like to just even be out here?
Well, you know, we've had a lot of accomplishments over the last 2 years. I'm moving in a good direction, so I feel accomplished. I'm starting to get cooperation from some people, so I feel somewhat energized. We're not there yet. My particular issue with this is that I feel that there's a cover-up there. We got information on it, and the initial information satisfied most of my family members. And then when I started seeing some documentation, they asked me some questions. I said, "This is okay."
So he's telling the same story that he told me.
More and more and more.
I don't know how well you
And
can
the
hear.
answers weren't coming. I take it to the Florida Highway Patrol. Lake County's been very, very good. Jerry Craig, the under chief, has been very, very cooperative.
Where are you guys going after this?
Back to the hotel.
How long you staying in Florida?
Gonna be home by Thursday.
Flying?
No, we drove.
Oh, you drove down from Wisconsin, huh? How was the ride?
Pretty nice. We felt the tree. Where were we? Just the state north here. Is that Georgia straight north?
Yeah.
That area. They must have been hit by a hell of a hurricane in the last couple of years. And there's so much destruction up there.
You been to Florida before?
Oh yeah.
How you like it down here?
Well, we took when the kids were younger. I'm a retired school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
When we'd have a vacation over the Easter holidays, we would occasionally make a big trip, and we always drove. For me, the plane rides haven't been too common. I just as soon spend a little more time to see the countryside.
Sure.
Than just go over the top of it and see all these circles where the crops are being grown. That's of course Nebraska, that area.
Right.
I guess I feel sorry for people who don't have the changes of seasons that we
You
have.
feel sorry for us because it doesn't snow here?
Yeah.
You know, we feel sorry for you because it does snow up there. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, so.
Okay. Well, you don't like it from that much?
Are you kidding me?
Well, you know,
It's horrible.
we need the snow because we don't get enough rain in the summertime.
Well, let's get some more rain and forget the snow.
Yeah.
Since we're negotiating the weather.
Doesn't come- yeah, we don't-
So, what advice would you give to somebody to live to be 88 years old?
It's been enjoyable.
Do you smoke? Have you ever smoked?
Cigar. We have 9 children. Had 9 children.
9 children.
So I always wind up.
So that's why you
passing
didn't.
out cigars. And,
Okay.
But if it's
You've
like,
smoked
wow,
9 cigars, okay.
Well, I didn't smoke them. I just lit one end of them.
And that's the extent of your smoking.
Yeah, that's enough.
What about alcohol? You drink alcohol throughout your life?
Sunday morning.
So one day a week
Sunday morning
and
at
lightly.
church.
Oh, not even a real session, just a.
Yeah, and I've had 2 beers since we've been down here. And that's mostly because you can't exactly go into a place and see somebody.
What's your
without-
diet look like over 88 years?
American diet, meat, potatoes, or
Yeah.
pretty much?
When I was a kid, we raised rabbits and ate rabbits.
What about eggs? You eat lots of eggs throughout your life? What would you say you've eaten the most of, your favorite thing, can't get enough of, never get sick of?
You know, our Czechoslovakian home adults in the family made, they're called kolaches.
Kolaches?
Kolaches.
Is that a sausage?
No, that's baked goods.
What is it?
Bakery.
Oh, you like sweets.
Well, cottage cheese goes in some of them. Some of them had fruit.
Okay.
You probably heard of the thing that they talk about a lot in the Milwaukee area, punchki or punchkas. That's a big donut.
Isn't that a cuss word?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
I did make the mistake of backing up into a 5-gallon pail hanging on a.
There's a stupid button here that brings up this program called Bixby that nobody uses. It's really annoying. So now they're going to film you getting out of the car and walking down the sidewalk doing some vanity shots?
Yeah.
All right, sir.
Okay, but he said, wait.
It's your time to shine now. Don't mess this up.
Okay.
All right.
No, I messed it up before, but.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
So, but that's what
They're doing like B-roll footage. Dad walking down the sidewalk. Slow motion for me. Slow motion for me. Slow motion, moving slow motion for me. Ooh, I like it that. I like it like that. She don't know. Damn, I blew that. Start over. Ooh, I like it like that. She working that back. I don't know how to act. Slow motion for me. Slow motion for me. Slow motion moving. Slow motion for me. Now they're gonna wear that old man out. Remember, he's got to come back. He's 88. I know it's a nice cool breeze and everything, but he's 88. Hey man, if you could just walk another quarter mile, we'll have John drive down and pick you up. John Filax, John Filax.
And John, tell me how you are helping Bob and Robert get results in their situations to honor.
The way I'm helping them is I have a YouTube channel. I have 160-some thousand subscribers, and just the exposure on the story might get the wheels turning. Who knows where, and who knows how that's going to happen? But sitting back and doing nothing isn't going to get anything done. Go Bear. Robert contacted me several times. A lot of people started contacting me once my channel started getting big, and I talked to him. So he told me a story. I said, I'll do what I can, and he said, I'll be in Leesburg. And I said, I'll come spend the night, and I'll be here in the morning to cover. No, I live in Casco County, Land O'Lakes. Like I said, Bob called me, and his story, you know, it's a good story. You come out here, you can explain what's going on. He wants to get his side of the story out there, and whatever it is, you get your opinions out there, and you get the, like I said, you get the oil, start oiling them gears, and get something done. And if I can help a guy, because he's a good guy, I've spoken to him many times, why not help the guy?
This is probably your first time out here seeing it for yourself.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, we came out last night, and I showed, you know, I turned my headlights off so we could show how dark it was, and it's literally pitch black. And even with the headlights on, your visibility is, it's not very far. So if you're going well above the speed limit and being dangerous, you don't have time to stop. That's the whole idea. So if he was going that fast, and if somebody's hiding something, they should be exposed by first and last name as far as I'm concerned. There's no reason to be lazy about an investigation. There's no reason to cover it up.
There's no reason. Unless you know somebody, and if that's the case, then you're back to the corruption issue. Out here specifically or in general, yeah, absolutely. Whatever we can do to save life, whether it's lights or whatever it is, as much money as they waste on other stuff and they claim is for safety, there, we have a real situation here. Throw a little bit of money in there. Put a signal, put a yellow flasher, whatever the case may be, a floodlight, a guy with a flashlight. But I digress.
Did you think that Robert, Bob, and us were going to get results?
I don't know. I hope so. I can raise awareness, and I know thousands and thousands of people will watch my stuff, so that's the least I can do, you know. That's what, basically what you're doing. And we appreciate it.
All right. That's
Thank you. All right, so we're out here in Leesburg, and a beautiful racing striped Corvette just went by, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about a lady who lost her life right here at this intersection. Mr. Slamka has called me. I came down to cover it. He also got News 6, local news, to come cover it, and this guy's actually filming me right now because he wants to see what I do on my channel, and I appreciate you, man, for giving these guys exposure and stuff. So this is where it happened, and like I said earlier, something should be done, you know, lights, signals, something. It seems like somebody lost their life and nothing really happened, and something could be done, especially right here. It's a big intersection and people are flying by, going really fast, and according to Bob, the driver was going about 72.6 miles an hour. I guess they know how to do them calculations. Of course I don't. And that's the gist of it. Again, I'm just rolling this for News 6 cameraman wants B-roll footage of me. There you go. There's a nice Hummer. Actual camo Hummer. So I'm pretending now like I'm doing a blog for News 6. Yeah, so here, watch that car real quick. There you go. There you go. Get some mobile karate action going. Appreciate it. What's your name again?
Anthony.
Anthony from News 6.
Yeah, man.
And Adriana. How do you say your last name?
Bro, Iwasinski.
Iwasinski. Very good. Very good, sir. Thank you so much. Iwasinski is going to knock on the door now to ask some of the neighbors, which is something I learned. I learned how to do media a little bit here because I would have never thought to go knock on that door and see if they were here during there. Yeah, and they're actually answering, and they're probably happy to talk. Some old white-haired lady here. She can't believe it's Adriana Iwasinski. That's awesome how she starstruck. Like, what are you doing here? Yay! Woo! Of course I'll talk to you. If I knocked on the door, I'd be like, honey, grab the shotgun. Grab the shotgun. There's a Hispanic male at the door.
Wonderful thing to get done. Let's hope that we can get a light in here. I've seen so many accidents.
Now we know what she wants. She thinks that as a neighbor, she would love to see the lights.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yes, I do. I have treated so many people and called 911 numerous times.
She's seen too much.
Yeah, I've seen a lot, and I've doctored a lot of people from bleeding and all this stuff. You know, when they get hurt, give them water and everything. And I'm not a nurse or anything, but I do what I can when people get hurt.
Let's do this. We need to go out here a little bit just because of the lighting.
The lighting is
Yes,
bad.
if that's okay.
We rode the submarines.
Husband was a retired Navy man.
He was on the Robert E. Lee, the Alexander Hamilton, and the Sam Rayburn.
Okay. Well, so none of those are the USS Darter. I had an uncle who was in the Korean conflict era, and he was so he's.
This lady's been living here 40 some years. Her old man was in the Navy. You can just see we're right across the street here. Her husband passed away. So she's a widowed veteran's wife.
Adriana's going to get to it when she.
I don't know yet whether they ever did or whether they go into another accident reverse than the one that occurred in April. April something occurred or so.
Here's something interesting I've never seen before. Unmaintained Sunset Avenue. Unmaintained. I got some weird infatuation with street signs. Ah, maybe this is what they mean. That the pavement ends right there. And that the rest is unmaintained. But why does the street sign need to say that? I mean, did these dogs get a vote right here? These dogs in these dog houses, did they get a vote? I don't think so.
Rodent out here, they killed the root, so it died.
But it came back.
No.
Oh, this is the
a
second
new
tree
one.
you've put in. Oh, I got you. Well, let's
Yum,
go.
yum,
It
yum,
is
oranges.
definitely blooming well.
Yeah, it's doing good. It's doing good.
Well, Miss Dayton, first name, last name, how to spell both for my records, please.
The first name is Laura, Lora, and Dayton, Dayton.
All right, and Miss Dayton, what would you like to see happen at this intersection?
I would love to see a stoplight put in. Because even with the caution lights, with the school, still some people will obey it and some don't.
You've lived out here a long time. Tell me how long and what you've seen.
I've lived here since 1972.
Okay, I'm ready, Adriana.
Oh, okay. So that's okay. I thought you were ready to
Oh,
roll.
no, I wasn't.
No,
I'm
no,
sorry.
no. He wasn't. Okay. I need your first name and your last name for my records. Real
Okay,
quick.
first name is Laura Dayton,
And spell it for me, please.
Lora, Dayton.
All right. And Miss Laura, what would you like to see happen at this intersection?
I would like to see a stoplight put in a long time ago.
And why is that?
Because there have been a lot of fatalities. Well, I've witnessed maybe 2 or 3, and a lot of accidents, a lot.
Yeah, you lived here more than 40 years.
Yes, I've seen a lot of new growth and a lot of traffic. And we do need a stoplight because of the children crossing over to go to school. And for just pedestrians that's going back and forth to the store or whatever, you know.
Were you here the night that Carolyn Slamka?
Yes, I did. I did, and it gives me chills today. It gives me chills just to think about it. I could hear it screaming, and the tires, it just was awful, just awful.
And to know that her brother and father are trying to get results here 2 years after her passing,
Yes.
hoping to do something in her memory, make sure that something like this doesn't happen again, or at least so that death isn't for
In vain.
in vain. Correct.
I understand that, and I hope that with your all's help that this can get done. Sometimes they don't even stop. They just keep going.
We do know, I've checked in with the Lake County. They say since last year there were 5 crashes, and as a result of that, they are now able to do a traffic safety study. And they're going to start doing it here in the next few weeks. We hope to have results of that study by 3 months from now. Do you think it's about time?
Way past it. It's way past it. Well, I'm hoping that we can get some good results. We can see a light going here real soon.
I'm done with everything. What do you need, Anthony?
Just some shots of you guys together.
Talking here?
Maybe talking. Yeah.
So even in the past, has it only gotten worse? You know, all of Central Florida is growing.